the nation's commercial capital. This is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Amarachi Ubani.
Good evening and welcome tonight. Federal government's continuous search for lasting peace in the Northeast to extend state of emergency for 6 months. Militants group in Ogidigbe, believed to be loyal to former militant leader Tom Polo, attacks Channels Television crew. Anger and confusion on the streets of Lagos over voter registration hiccups. And U.S. investigators begin hunt for killers of Abdul Rahman Kasig.
On business news tonight, Delta State government rolls out the first phase of the 2 billion naira CBN MSMEs development funds.
And in sports news tonight, Kano Pillars to receive 15 million naira for emerging domestic league champions.
The President and members of the National Security Council have agreed to extend the state of emergency imposed on 3 northeast states of Yobe, Borno and Adamawa by another 6 months. The decision is, however, to be ratified by the National Assembly. The Security Council, in taking this decision at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, considered the frequent bombings and attacks carried out by Boko Haram members in affected states. The Council members agree that peace is far from being achieved and reckon that extending the emergency rule in those states may just be the way to go. On May 14, 2013, President Goodluck Jonathan declared emergency rule in 3 northeast states, giving sweeping powers to the security forces against insurgents. The founder of Boko Haram, Muhammad Yusuf, was killed while in police custody. Since then, the group has carried out gun and bomb attacks across northern Nigeria.
No, we just reviewed the issue of the state of emergency, and then the government would be requesting the National Assembly to extend the state of emergency.
How soon would that be in view that an arm of the National Assembly is currently on break?
It will go in immediately.
The emerging global and local security landscape has made it imperative for Nigeria to overhaul its security and defense architecture. This is according to the Minister of Defense, retired General Aliyu Gusau, who revealed that Nigeria has begun a review of its national defense policy to cope with the threats of extremism and terrorism. General Gusau was speaking at the 2014 Annual Defense Attaché Conference in Abuja. Our correspondent Amaka Okafo reports.
That Nigeria is facing a serious security challenge is not news. Neither is it news that Nigerians have suffered losses and there is a growing dissatisfaction on the approach of the government to the issues of insecurity. This conference of defense attaches is exploring new strategies to confront the global and local scourge of terrorism and extremism. The Minister of Defense, retired Lieutenant General Aliyu Gusau, says it is time for Nigeria to re-strategize and breach the intelligence gap in tackling terrorism in the country.
Taking together the global and the domestic security environment, it is imperative that Nigeria re-engineers her defense and security posture to cope with the threats. The DA system has a duty to help bridge the intelligence gaps in knowledge and the terrorist groups. The foreign source of support, training, weapons, funding, and the flow of foreign fighters.
The Chief of Defense Intelligence, Rear Admiral Gabriel Okoye, says besides a constant reappraisal of its intelligence strategy, the military has recently invested in military hardwares and capacity training to improve on what it is doing at the moment.
We've acquired some equipment and also carried out capacity building to to improve on what we are doing. So we are trying to re-strategize to see how we can do better than what we are doing presently.
Besides a constant reappraisal of the country's security strategies, experts are of the opinion that a vital element in the war against terror is a firm resolve by Nigerians to support the government to end insurgency. Amaka Okafor, Channels Television News.
Well, more on security, as 10 people have been killed in the Nasarawa state capital, Lafia, following renewed communal clashes in the state. 7 of the victims were persons suspected to be members of the Ombase militia, allegedly killed by the rival Kamberi tribe this afternoon after a heavy gun battle between the two groups. The battleground between the armed groups today shifted a few meters away from the Emir Palace Road, where one Ombase member was killed and his body burnt on Sunday. According to an eyewitness account, some Ombase militia had attacked a resident in Lafia, in the course of which 7 of them were killed by the Kamberi. Before that incident, 3 Egon boys were killed at Shabu, a suburb of Lafia, while about 7 persons were taken to the Dalhatu Arab Specialist Hospital following the renewed violence. Meanwhile, banks and other businesses in Lafia remained closed, while the government has announced restriction of movement in the state capital. Well, the president has decried the circumstances leading to the forced postponement of the groundbreaking for the multi-billion naira gas industrial park in Ogidigben, Delta State. Addressing journalists on the developments in Abuja today, Special Advisor to President Goodluck Jonathan on Media and Publicity, Dr. Reuben Abati, condemned the attempt to link the president to the communal dispute over the setting of the gas project. He urged the concerned parties to end their disagreement and ensure a smooth takeoff of the project.
We can start now. Okay. President Jonathan calls for speedy resolution of dispute that led to the postponement of the groundbreaking ceremony for the multi-billion naira gas industrial park in Delta State last week. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has noted with regret the very unnecessary controversy and acrimony that has arisen over the postponement of the groundbreaking ceremony for the Gas Revolution Industrial Park at Ogidigbe in the Warri Southwest local government area. President Jonathan is deeply saddened by the very unjust, uncharitable, and unwarranted accusations of nepotism and partisanship that have been made against him in the wake of the postponement. The President is particularly dismayed by the unseemly resort to the abusive denigration of his personal integrity and the whipping up of divisive ethnic sentiments by parties to the totally needless communal disagreement that resulted in the decision to reschedule the groundbreaking event. It should be apparent to all Nigerians by now that while President Jonathan may be affiliated to the Ijaw ethnic group by birth, he knows fully well that he was elected president of all Nigerians and has always shown by word and deed that he will always uphold the oath he swore on assumption of office to protect and promote the interests of all Nigerians with justice, equity, and fairness to all as his guiding principles.
The President's Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Dr. Reuben Abati, or Channel Television crew who are supposed to be tracking that event, that's the groundbreaking for the multi-billion naira gas industrial park in Ogidigben, Delta State, were kidnapped along with 13 other journalists in the Niger Delta Creeks over the weekend. Channels Television's energy correspondent, Olu Phillips, and cameraman Paulinus Odedei were on their way back from covering an event at the Oginigbe gas plant in Warri, Delta State, when they were abducted. President Goodluck Jonathan was earlier expected to perform the groundbreaking of the $16 billion export processing zone project, but the event was called off. And much earlier today, we spoke to Olu via Skype from the naval base in Warri, Delta State.
The speedboat heading to Warri, when we got intercepted by this group of boys with 6 boats, and they said, the first question they asked us when they intercepted us was, give us your camera. And before we knew it, pandemonium erupted. They went for our cameras, went for my cameraman, took him away in a separate boat. They pounded on him nicely and good, and took us also with them behind. And eventually we found ourselves in Oprosa, which is supposed to be the hometown of the village of Tompolo. So they took us to his house. We were detained there for 6 hours. That's where we had all the torturing. I was not touched because I kept telling them the implications of having to touch me and all of that. But they really pounced on the other guys and they beat them nice and good. We're there for 6 hours, between 12 and about 6:30, 7 p.m. The 4 men of the Nigerian Navy came to our rescue.
Well, fortunately, Olu Phillips and Paulino Sodede have been released, and we should be expecting them back home any time now. But joining me in the studio to discuss the security situation in Delta State and the general security situation in the country is Mr. Chigozie Ubani, who is a security practitioner. You're welcome to the News at 10. Thank you. Fortunately, we both answer the same surname.
Thank you.
Okay, now, the state of emergency declared in the northeast eastern states of Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe have over the last year now. They've been on for over the last year, beg your pardon. Do you think that the situation in those places warrants any extension?
It does. It does warrant extension, even beyond what we have. I think the present government is being careful about, like I will always say, what is politically expedient, as against what should be done to curb these criminal insurgency once and for all. A lot of politics is being played. If, for instance, the president decides to go outright and take out the government there and impose a military administration, a lot of people will read meanings, because when you look at those states, of course, the Borno, Adamawa and Yobe states are governed by the opposition. So a lot of political meanings and misinterpretations will be ready to it. So I think the present government is being careful. But the way things are, we should stop playing politics and look at ways and means of getting this out. Because there has to be a Nigeria. The map of Nigeria has to remain the same. The people of Nigeria has to be for an election to hold and for there to be a government, whether the present government or an opposition government that wishes or desires to take over.
And that's assuming that the militants, that's Boko Haram, actually do believe what you're saying, because to them all of these borders don't make any sense.
That is the idea, because we failed to do what we were supposed to do a long time ago. Several years ago, we were supposed to have secured our borders, but we didn't. So right now, we see all manner of human beings descending into Nigeria from neighboring countries. And security reports have revealed, even government security practitioners have revealed that there are security reports that foreigners have infiltrated Nigeria. When we look at some of the people who are causing this mayhem, they are not Nigerians. So for how long shall we continue to respect border treaties in the sub-region and let our people die in this large number? Something has to be done, and it has to be a full military action against these fellows.
And it's quite interesting that the Niger Delta issue has actually come up again, because this used to be a really hot spot in Nigeria.
That's right.
Just a few years back. Imagine our own crew and 13 other journalists being kidnapped and abducted, and we don't know the state of our camera right now, but we can imagine what probably would have happened to them had the government not stepped in.
That's right.
Why do you think all of this is coming up now?
Of course, you see, sorry to say this, the government is becoming weaker. Politics has a way, if wrongly played, diluting the energy, the powers of the government. Because these young men who do these things are known to our politicians. Let's not pretend about it. There is no way criminals will rise from stealing goats to armed robbery to a point where we have militancy and criminal insurgency, and our politicians say they do not know them. From the councillor to the local government chairman to governors and his aides, including traditional rulers, we all know somebody who's doing something. So let's not pretend about that. But because these boys at certain times are our political thugs, instruments of unleashing violence and stealing ballot boxes, for God's sake, we just can't look them in the face and deal ruthlessly with them, probably according to the law. So what you see here is, like I would say, what is politically expedient, conspiring against our national security. And that is what I feel is quite undesirable for our nation.
And I guess we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you so much for joining us on the News at 10. Mr. Chigozie Ubani is a security practitioner. He talked about the security situation in northeast Nigeria, as well as the most recent attack that happened in the Niger Delta that prevented a groundbreaking ceremony for a major project in the region. In part two, after the break, a Speaker of the House of Representatives, Aminu Tambuwal, approaches the courts, seeking to amend his case on the withdrawal of his security detail. Please stay with us.